Hey Flingers, doing another vlog style. So I just had another tournament today. This one was at Fossil Creek. Technically it's the club at Fossil Creek or something like that, but it's Fossil Creek, north of Fort Worth. Beautiful course. There's water everywhere, and there's a lot of really tight shots that really kind of challenge your distance control and stuff like that, and your direction. There's a couple where you got to kind of get over the water, and then the other big challenge is the greens are tiny. Like, they are some of the smallest greens I've ever seen, and so I mean, they're the size greens that pretty much no matter where the pin was, if I was on the green, I could putt it. And I usually don't like to putt any longer than about 42 feet. So I was putting all day long, but the other problem with that is if you didn't hit the green, you really had to be good with your scoop shots. And my scoop shots weren't very on today. I did some testing during the warm-up. All I really did was a little bit of putting and the scoop shots. And I thought I had the scoop shots dialed down, but the greens here were they were not bouncing at all. They weren't very firm, so they were very receptive, but they would hit and then kind of just not really roll out. So I ended up short on a lot of them. And then on a couple of them, I would try to compensate for that and go a little bit longer and catch a bad bounce or a downhill or something like that and go way past it. So I had a lot of long putts. And I didn't look at the total yardage, so I don't know how that was. It didn't seem as bad. The par threes were both pretty easy. I parred the first one. I had one double bogey, but it was on a par four. Relatively short par four too, but it's over. There's a complete cutoff stream in front, and then there's like a brick, stone wall and about 10 yards of elevation. And like a dummy, I didn't fully factor the elevation, or there was a headwind coming into me. I did factor the wind, but the wind might have been a little bit stronger than I thought, but I certainly didn't factor all of the elevation. So I played the shot at the actual distance. I think it was like 110, so I played a 110-yard shot, and I needed to play like 130. Or it might have been 130, and I played, because I think it was 120. Yeah, it was 120, and I factored. I was like, all right, I can't be short, so I want to throw it a little bit longer. I factored the wind, so I was like, all right, I'm going to play my 130 shot and hope that the 130 shot catches the front of the green and rolls to the center. But, of course, 10 yards elevation, I probably needed to play about a 150 shot playing uphill like that. So that was my fault, and I hit the top of the wall and just right down. So ended up with a double bogey there. Didn't have any birdies today, but I had a lot of pars. Ended up 1 under, tied for second. The guy that won it was actually in my group, so he was on a team with another guy in the other cart, and then I got paired up with another single. She was a hoot. She was a riot. Great person to be around, good personality. So she made it fun, and she actually was super interested in fling golf. She actually tried a shot, and then we were talking after the round, and she said she actually wanted to pick one up to mess around with it. So I sent her all the links and my discount code and stuff. But yeah, it was a pretty good round. Challenging. I do remember like the 9th hole is a relatively short par 4. I had a good drive, and then I only had, I think, 110 yards in, or was that the 150 shot? I might have had a 150. Yes, it was a 150 shot because I did my full step. And my 150 shot, both yesterday and today, I think I had my 150 shot twice today and once yesterday, have a tendency to stay leaking out right. So I got to figure out what's going on there and get that 150 shot back to center. Because today, both times I threw it, it went right on me. So that one was tough though, because it's a 150, and again, it's a small green right next to the water, and the water kind of wraps around the back of it and then also cuts in front of it. and then kind of goes back out. So it has this little nub that kind of comes directly in front of the green. So you can't really get much of unless you're on the right side of the fairway, which I was on the left. If you have a right side of the fairway, you might be able to get a little bit of a run up and land it short. But it was also, you wouldn't have been able to do it today. It was actually kind of wet, which I don't know why, because they must soak their course or something, because we haven't had any rain and it's been super hot. So I don't know how that course is not just baked and dried out. But yeah, so it's a super challenging shot, and I was so terrified of that water that I leaked out right. I went way right on my first shot, which is the one I played, of course, but I went way, way right. Luckily, I hit a hill and it kind of bounced back toward the green, but I was still 5 yards off the green, I want to say. But then just to get that out of my head, I threw a second shot. You know, I didn't count it. It was just to throw it. And that one even still went right on me just because I was so terrified of that water. Which, again, I have not missed a shot left with this 51-inch. So I guess I don't need to be afraid of left. My miss is always going to be right with it. I'm not sure exactly what that's about, but even like my scoop shots, everything, my miss is going to be to the right. Except if I do hit a putt, that goes about 2 inches. At 51 inches, it's about an inch or two to the left. So then, you know, you extrapolate that to based on however far. But, yeah, good course. It does make you, I had to lay up on a couple. I don't think I could go for a single green on a par 5. I don't think there was a single time I could have even attempted to go for the green. They always had, like, you know, either water or hazards or ditches or something in front, so I had to lay up on they're both the par 5s. I think I parred them both. I know I parred the first one. I'm not sure if I parred the second one. I don't remember. The par 4s were pretty challenging. Most of them were 2 full shots in. I didn't have too many with, you know, kind of approach shots left in, and if anything, it was like a 130. So I didn't have any that were close shots left in. The par 3s, like I said, were pretty good though. The shot on the first one is the second hole. It was actually gorgeous. It was like a 130, and I had pin high. It just did leak out a little bit right to me. There was a bunker. It was tucked behind a bunker, tight against, you know, a front side, green side bunker. So I was a little bit scared of that. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to play the safe shot toward the middle. I went about 3 yards or so right of my target line. So that one I wasn't trying to go for the pin. Putting was okay today. It wasn't as good as yesterday. I think I read my lines pretty well for the most part. There was maybe one misread. Yeah, I do remember one misread where I didn't think it was going to break as much as it did. I don't think I gave the hole away, but it broke a pretty good amount. It was just one of those ones that, like, when I looked at it from both behind my ball and behind the pin, I could see a slight break to where I was like, okay, at most this is a ball outside, but I'm going to probably go left edge. But then when I went below the hole and viewed it kind of, you know, sideways from below the break, you know, downhill of it, I could see that it was uphill the whole way, which is going to tell me it's going to be a sweeper left to right because you're hitting on that side slope. But man, just standing over it and even looking behind the hole, I was like, it looks dead flat to me. Looking from behind the ball, it actually looks like it was dead straight. But then behind the hole, I could tell, okay, yeah, it's going to drift a little left. And I should have known, like, okay, I need to aim more left on this one. Just from that view from below, you know, yeah, below the line. And I just didn't trust it because it looked so straight from behind the ball and from behind the hole. So I was like, well, I got 2 views versus 1. But sure enough, yeah, I was on that side slope. I needed to drift it up. I had great speed on it though. But I had really good lag putting. I had a lot of gimme tap-ins. And I was I don't think I missed anything from 5 feet in. Maybe one that was like a 5 or 6 footer. I might have missed a little bit left, I think. But I wasn't as good with my speed control today as well. So I had it. I didn't have any like that I left short, but I kept hitting a bunch of them too long. I was just blasting them through. I had one that we all counted it. Even the playing partner said that counts. The pin was still in. They were the thick pull pins. And so I blasted it. It hit dead center. So I think it would have gone in if the pin had not been in there. But it hit dead center, and then it bounced out to about 1 inch outside of the hole. And everybody was like, yeah, if that pin was out, you would have been fine. I mean, there's a chance that it might have, it would have went dead center and it would have went all the way to the back of the cup, but sometimes, those, they hit the back and still bounce out the backside by 1 inch or 2. Could have been one of those. But they all said, yeah, that's fine. If the pin was in, that would have been in. But yeah, pretty good day. The other 2 playing partners kind of kept to themselves. They knew the girl that was my kart partner. I guess they all kind of, it's a small group, I think, that plays that Spark League. So they all seem to know each other. So they were kind of doing some banter and stuff back with her. It was a good time, but it wasn't as good as yesterday's group. Because yesterday's group, all 4 people, we were all kind of talking and having some banter and stuff like that. Today, my kart partner was great. Her and I had a bunch of conversations and just all kinds of stuff. So she was great, but the other 2 were kind of a little bit standoffish. And then, so the end of the story is, I think I know why they were a little bit more standoffish, is one of them, and it was actually the guy that won. When we were done, we're putting all of our gear away and stuff like that, and so I dropped off that girl at her car. She put all of her stuff away, and then I was heading to mine, and the other guy from the other cart came up to like shake my hand or whatever, so I kind of got out, and he was talking to another guy who started talking about fling golf or whatever. So she came over and was kind of like hyping it up because she tried it, so he was super interested. The other guy was kind of like testing it. He was like, yeah, I would mess around with 9 holes or whatever. He's like, but I don't, see this as the same. And then so the guy that ended up winning today, he gave the typical like Facebook style pushback where he's like, I don't think this is fair. I don't think this is right. He basically said, like, I don't think you could do what you did today if you had regular golf clubs in your hand. And I was like, okay, with a driver, probably not. I was like, but I used to play golf, and what if I just grab my 6 or my 7 iron and just play with that the entire day? 6 iron down into my wedges. It's not any different than that. And so he started kind of arguing and pushing back a little bit. It didn't get angry and heated, but you could tell he didn't agree with it. So, I kind of told him, I was like, all right, well, if we were playing head-to-head in a competitive round and there was no handicap, I would 100% agree with you. I was like, because, yes, this is easier. I was like, I don't have the distance that you have. I was like, but I'm a lot more accurate and I don't lose balls. And I don't have, bad shots. My bad shots are maybe like 10 yards offline, or the one that I hit the wall and lost the ball, which sucks. But, everybody's going to have those. So I was like, if we didn't have a handicap, I could agree with you that, yeah, it wouldn't be fair because this is easier. Raw score. And I even told him, I was like, look, I beat you today raw score. I was like, but you beat me by 3 strokes net score, because the handicap accounts for how easy, or the easier fling golf versus traditional golf. I was like, I'll fully admit traditional golf's harder. I played it for 20 years. I never shot the scores I do now. I always struggled with it. But the handicap system accounts for that. And he tried to argue that the handicap system doesn't account because it doesn't take into fact the clubs that we're using or the equipment that we're using. I was like, but it does. I was like, it doesn't matter if I'm playing traditional golf clubs. If I play traditional golf clubs and I play worse, then I'm going to have a higher handicap. If I play with this, my handicap's going to be lower. And I was like, what was your handicap today? And his handicap was 11 strokes, mine is 7. Which I think mine is actually going to start to lower as I play more rounds of this, but because I think it should be a 4 or 5. I shot a 42 today, 40 yesterday, so I think a 5 is probably going to set me around at level par every round. I was like, the handicap system is going to account for that. So yes, I'm going to shoot a lower raw score than you. I get it. It's easier, but my handicap is also going to be lower to account for that. The handicap system within Spark Golf and even the GHIN handicap is designed to bring everybody to par. If you play your best round, you should be par. Like, that's the whole point of it. Or if you play, the above average round for you, because, GHIN is the best 8 out of 20. The Spark Golf is your best 2 out of your most recent 5. So it's like, hey, if you play your A game, the handicap will put you around par. And then if you play an exceptional A game, an A+, you'll be under par by a couple. If you have a bad day and you have an A- or a B+ or something, you'll be a couple strokes over. But that's that variance, is you should be within a couple strokes of par with your handicap in place. And then it's just a matter of who had the better day on that day, factoring in the handicap. And for whatever reason, he couldn't wrap his mind around that. And I was like, look, I get it. Your game's harder, but that's why you have a higher handicap. You're getting more strokes. And I wish I'd been able to look it up. I didn't think to look it up because I was trying not to, get on my phone or whatever. He actually won 2 skins today. So he won one on the par 3 second, which I parred, and he parred. We had the exact same raw score. But he won the skin because he had a handicap stroke on that one and I didn't. I got my raw score. I got my 3 because that was one of the holes that I didn't get a handicap on because I only got 7. So I had 2 holes that I didn't get it on. And that was one of them. So he actually won money even though we tied because of the handicap system. And I wish I could have seen that ahead of time. And if I see him next week and he brings it up again, I'll be like, look, dude, look at last week. You won money on 2 holes that we tied on raw score. Because he also won it on, I think, the 7th, which was a par 4. I had a handicap stroke on that, so I got a 3 net, 4 raw, but he had a 2 handicap on that one. So he looked like he had an eagle, and on the scorecard it shows his name, Eagle. I'm like, he didn't get an eagle. Like, net score, sure, yeah, he got an eagle. He shot 4. Like, that's not an eagle, but he wins money because of it, because of the skin, because he has a 2-stroke handicap. Like, I don't think that's fair. I don't think you should be able to win money based on the handicap system. Like, that's not fair. You get so many strokes on a hole because you're a bad golfer, but you're going to win money on it. So I could argue back with that. But I told him, I was like, there's no reason why I can't play along. As long as there's a handicap system in place, there's no reason why I can't play alongside traditional golfers. Because yes, fling golf is going to be easier and more consistent with less distance though, but the handicap system is going to account for all of that. It's going to account for the accuracy. It's going to account for the ease of chips and stuff like that. And if I play from the same tees consistently with those guys, it's also going to account for the fact that I don't have the distance and I can't make a lot of greens and regulations because I can't physically throw that far. So, 7 might even honestly be the right handicap for me. Because there's a lot of holes that if it's a par 4, I have to basically play it as a par 5 because I can't reach it. That 200-yard par 3, I have to play that. I can't. It's not a par 3 to me. That's a par 4. The handicap will balance all that out though, and then it's just a matter of who had the better day. Yeah, like I told him, I was like, look, if there's a handicap in place, there's no reason I can't play alongside you guys. I was like, now, I'm not going to play a PGA event because one of the other guys that came over, he's like, you can't play that in a tournament. And I was like, no, you're absolutely right. I can't play this in a PGA tournament. But that's why we have the New Swarm Tour, which is our own competitive league. And yes, in a competitive setting, PGA versus New Swarm, handicaps aren't in those. So in those ones, no, you can't cross equipment. But in any competitive tournament where there is a handicap system, as long as your handicap is accurate, there's no reason why fling golfers and traditional golfers can't play it side by side, because the handicap is going to account for everything. It's going to account for the easier fling golf. It's going to account for the more difficult traditional golf. It's going to account for the lack of distance with us. It'll account for everything because all it cares about is how many strokes does it take you to get there. And then, if every single par 4 takes me 5 strokes to get there, so be it. It's going to account for that in the handicap. So, I kind of told them, I was like, look, if we're just playing a casual round side by side, it doesn't matter, because then we're not really being competitive. We're just playing a casual round. I get my score, you get your score. I'm basically competing against myself if I'm competing at all. Sometimes you don't even keep score. But if we're playing in a handicapped tournament, then yeah, I can play. It's because, again, my handicap accounts for that. My GHIN handicap, I paid the money to get into the Texas Golf Association and track my scores and like that. I'm a 9.4, 9.6, depending on, kind of my recent rounds. But I'm basically a 9.5 handicap. So I would get 9 strokes. So basically every single hole I'm going to get 1 versus a scratch golfer. So I can play in normal tournaments, if the handicap is used. Because I'm going to get those 9 holes, but it's going to take me longer to get to those holes. Now, again, if there's no handicap involved, and I even told them, I was like, look, if there's no handicap, I 100% agree with you. We can't play on the same tournament because that's not fair. I do have an advantage that mine is easier to do. Even with the distance, mine's going to be easier just because I'm not going to have those bad shots that you had today. And he had a lot of bad shots too. I'm not entirely sure that because my raw score was 42, his is 43. And I'm not entirely sure that he had a 43 because he lost quite a bit of balls. He sliced at least 3 or 4 into the woods. He said he made a par on a hole where he had a drop. I didn't see all of his shots, but I know he had a pretty good drive that I think went off long into the water, took a drop, was on the green, and if he hit the 1 putt, then sure, but I'm not confident that he had that 43. Because then what would that math be? Yeah, he was 4 under, and he had 11 handicap, so that makes sense. So the math adds up if he entered his scores right, but I'm not entirely sure he entered his scores right because there was a lot. If I ever get partnered with him again, I'm going to actually watch him a little bit more. Because he was cussing all day too. He had a lot of bad shots. So, he had a lot of close missed putts too. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure that 43 is actually a 43. But anyway, I'm not gonna question him, until maybe next week. But yeah, he had some serious pushback, which was kind of funny. But the funny part was the random guy that came over and was kind of messing around with it. He just basically was like, well, you can't, it's not a legal stick. And I was like, if I'm playing on the PGA, no, it's not legal, but this is, it's a legal stick to play New Swarm, and Spark Golf is not, we're not on the tour, we're not PGA sponsors, and there's a handicap, so who cares? His playing partner was like, he's like, once I kind of explained it and I mentioned the handicap thing, he actually told the other guy, he's like, I got to disagree with you. He's like, I got to side with him. He's like, yeah, the handicap's going to account for all this stuff. So yeah, as long as he's accurate with his handicap, then yeah, he can play alongside us and it doesn't matter. Like, the handicap's going to account for the fact that it's easier. So yeah, he's going to beat you raw score, but you're going to beat him because of your handicap. And then the girl that I was kart partners with, was like, she was feisty and she likes to argue, so she kind of jumped in there and was like, really had my back in defending it. And like, she was like, why the hell can't he play? Like, he can play right alongside. Like, the handicap's there. That was the big thing, is like the handicap. And he couldn't wrap his mind around the handicap. I don't know if he just doesn't understand how handicaps work or something like that. Because he kept trying to say, he's like, the handicap doesn't work for you because it doesn't factor in your equipment. And I was like, the handicap system doesn't know what equipment you use either. It doesn't know if you're hitting driver or laying up. It doesn't care. It doesn't know what you're hitting. It doesn't know how many putts you hit even. It doesn't care what equipment you used and what those shots were. There's no pictures. There's no, it's not, what's that score? It's not your shots gained statistics. It's a handicap. All it cares about is what is the number on the scorecard. And then the GHIN, of course, factors in conditions and other people that posted a score at that course that day to account for, it can add or take away a stroke, I think it is. I think it never does more than 1. Maybe it's up to 3. I don't know. I read it a while ago. But, it's going to just basically factor that, and it factors what tees you played from, obviously, because it factors, the rating and the slope. But that's all it's going to care about. So as long as you're doing the same tees, getting your consistent handicap built off of those tees, and you're not like, okay, I'm a 9 handicap and then I'm going to play up from the reds or something like that with a 9 handicap that I built off of, the tips or something. As long as you're not doing something like that, and sandbagging that way, then as long as you're being consistent and playing honestly, the handicap system works great. And it doesn't matter what equipment you're using. It just cares about the number at the end. So, yeah, it was interesting though. It was my first time having that pushback in person. Normally people are like my cartmate, where they're interested in it. They ask a lot of questions. Every now and then I get people to try it out. And he was the first one that I've ever had in person that gave pushback. So curious to see how that kind of goes. I'm going to go back next week. I like the course a lot. The group's pretty good, other than that one guy. It's a smaller group though, so I don't know how much. I wonder if it's the same group of people every single time. But yeah, for the most part, it seemed pretty good. I'm definitely doing Mansfield again. But yeah, overall in my game, I'm feeling really good about my game as well. Taking first place yesterday with a -3, a -1 today to tie for second. That's pretty good. Like I said, I'm sure my handicap is going to start coming down. We'll see what it is tomorrow, because now it's going to take, obviously it takes the best 2 out of your last 5, and so I guess yesterday should have probably been a 4, because I was a 7 handicap. It probably should have been a 4 to put me at par. Today was a 7, and I guess it should have been a 6. So I think averaging it out, it should be a 5, I would guess. So I would imagine it'll take those best 2, it'll average them to a 5. So I'd imagine going forward, my handicap's going to be a 5. Which I'll need to play a little bit better. So my positioning will probably start dropping a little bit, but I'm still feeling good about my approach distances. Although I did have one. It was a 130 shot, which was the end of my belly shot, and it came out flat, and I don't know why. I can't figure it out. I even thought about it afterwards. I thought about it, I'm thinking about it now, because I did remember to look up. So I'm not entirely sure what happened. Usually when it comes out flat like that and dead, it's because I forget to look up. So I'm not entirely sure what happened. It could have been where, maybe I only looked up with my head and I didn't actually look up with my body and my shoulders and stuff like that. Like I didn't lean back. That could be it. Yeah, I'm just not sure. But that was really the only bad approach shot I had, other than the one that I didn't factor in the elevation and ended up coming up short. But I had basically the distance. Like I judged it right. I knew what he wanted to hit, and I hit the number that I wanted to hit with that throw. Like I hit the number that throw was designed for. I just didn't factor the elevation enough. And maybe the wind was a little bit stronger than I thought, especially once I got above the trees. But the throw was good. It was dead on line, exactly where I wanted to throw it. So, yeah, I think the weakest part of my game now is definitely scoop shots. I definitely need to figure those out and get those better and more consistent. Really kind of dial in. I need to do the same thing and dial in where I place it back in my stance and how far I follow through to get certain distances. So I need to do that and get distances on certain ones, and then I can start factoring, okay, this is a, and I'll probably do it based on paces. So I'll walk out, okay, this is my paces, this is where I want to land it, and just kind of go from there. So I'll get that dialed in. I just need some more practice range time to figure that out. Glenrose is actually a pretty good course for that. They have one of the better chipping ranges around me. Maybe Sugar Tree and Lipan might work too. Yeah, my face is blocked. I'm putting in a Walmart for some groceries. But yeah, feeling pretty good about my game. Looking forward to the 14th, Hooter Hearing Open. And yeah, fun day. Another second place. And good times. So I'm going to get in here, get some groceries, get home, get my butt to bed and wake up early again tomorrow morning. I am getting my afternoons off though, so that'll help. I got some work to do on my pool. I got to drain it out and move it around and level the ground, so we'll get that done. All right. Hope everybody's doing good out there. Happy flinging.